All right, so we're all very excited to be here. For those of you who do not know this gentleman well, do you know that he's from Chicago?
Okay, yes.
Some people here didn't know that. I was really surprised.
That's okay.
So Glen Ellen
Glen Ellen, yes.
is where you were born and raised.
Yes, born in Evergreen Park for 5 minutes. And my mom actually had tickets to the Candlelight Dinner Theater's production of Fiddler on the Roof and left the hospital to go see it.
What?
Swear to God. Swear to God. And I came back and I was fine.
Oh my God.
She actually did that, yeah.
Okay, so
Remember the Candlelight Dinner Theater?
Yeah, no, we do. So you're one of 5.
I'm one of 5, the youngest of 5 kids, yeah. And that is that answer.
Okay,
Yes.
and you went to Glenbard
West
High School.
Anybody,
Very important to say it was
anybody
West.
with this thing.
Are you having a hard time there, honey? Let me see if I could do it for you.
That's all right. Look,
Yeah,
it's.
Is it creating a mess? You're welcome.
And then I just leave. That's all I wanted.
I am seriously here to serve you today, so
All right.
I'm really good with that.
That's
Thank
very
you.
sweet.
Okay, so
It's vodka, right?
it has bubbles, so I don't think so.
All right.
I think you'll be disappointed.
Well, the interview will still be decent. Yes, youngest of 5. Grew up, dad left when I was 5. Mom raised 5 kids by herself. Worked super, super hard. She opened the Bethlehem Food Bank, which was then turned into the Northern Illinois Food Bank, which is part of Second Harvest. So devoted her whole life to feeding the poor and the homeless.
Wow.
And then, and she just passed away a couple years ago from Alzheimer's. So, and had cancer when she was 2. I was like, this woman is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, anyway.
And I was looking for pictures of you when you were in high school, and I found some of them online. And it looks like music and theater were your life there. Tell me about that.
For sure,
because
yeah.
that's what we're here doing
I was.
today.
I studied piano at the age of 5. Must have been my dad leaving. I was like, "Watch this," and I'm like, "Dad." And then, I studied piano since I was 5. It became my major in college, piano performance and conducting, and then theater minor at Illinois State University. I was just telling, did you all see Parasite, the movie Parasite? How about they reference the Illinois State University? I was like, what? He's writing it in South Korea. It's like, let me think of an American university.
No way.
Illinois State University. I'm like, it's so wild. But anyway, so I went there. I was a theater minor, and and then I got out of college and got a job right away at Pheasant Run Dinner Theater, and I was the music director there, and did all the shows by Bye Bye Birdie, Music Man, West Side Story, Evita, and so it was a great job to have. But then I saw my friends auditioning during the day for parts and commercials and stuff downtown Chicago, and I was like, the actor in me really wanted to get up and go. So during the day I would go do that and come back, and then so it's always been a part of my life.
But I want to go back to high school because that's kind of part of our focus today is for these high school kids and what theater does for them, what music does for them. So I want to talk about your experience in high school because you've seen what the Goodman does and what they're able to do. So I'm curious what your experience was like.
Yeah, and by the way, I should have started with thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here today, and it's such an incredible feeling to be associated with this incredible program, all these incredible programs today. And yes, I think high school, I always tell friends with kids, everybody should put their children through improv classes, and by the time they're in high school. Because what improv, Second City, the Groundlings, whatever it does, it doesn't even have to be comedy, just improv skills. Because what it does is it builds confidence in children, it makes them fearless. I remember the first exercise at Second City Theater was to find a random partner in the room, sit down, and you had to stare each other in the eyes for like 4 or 5 minutes, which is a really long time, because when you walk down the street, you lock eyes and you look away. But to lock eyes with somebody you've never met and be forced to stare in their eyes for 5 minutes is something if a kid learns how to do that, it changes your life. Yeah. And so I think that coupled with I went to Glenbard West High School, and the theater programs there, we had an incredible teacher named Sharon Koziak. She taught us all the fundamentals, the Shakespeare fundamental, like everything about beginning theater and the history of theater. But what it did for me personally was it gave me a sense of belonging. And I know all the programs in high schools, like whether it's sports or arts or whatever, they're designed, yes, to be creative, but also to create a sense of community and family and belonging and a purpose, right? And so for theater, for me, it just clicked right away. And I would cut class and just hang out in the theater a lot of the times because I felt safe there. And safe from judgment, safe from anything. It was a fail-safe space for kids. And I think, I don't know that, this could be discussed later, I don't know that sports is necessarily a fail-safe space for kids. Maybe it is. For me, I didn't see it that way. But the artistic community, especially theater, is a fail-safe space for kids, and that's what I love about it.
And what about comedy? When did that factor in?
Oh, when my dad left.
Tell me about that. Do you want to talk about that? 'Cause I think we should discuss it.
No, Irish Catholic, alcoholics, just all of it, right?
Wow.
You just bury that pain with comedy. And so I think that's where the comedy comes from. That's where any comedy comes from. It comes from pain and drama. And so I grew up in a very, very, very funny family. My mom was hilarious and just thought about 25 stories right there.
Oh, tell us one. Tell us one.
My mom had cancer when she was 2. There's nothing funny about that. She had her eye removed, and it's getting funny. Hang on. And and so at 2 years old, so as she grew up, she she had to have all these surgeries through high school and everything. It was awfully sad, and it was horrible. No, hang on. And redo her eye. So I grew up with a mom with an eye that was permanently open 24/7, 365. So she'd be sleeping. And I used to make fun of her. You have to make fun of her, you know, and she would die laughing, and then she'd make fun of me for something, we'd die laughing. So when she would go bowling every Thursday, she had an extra eye in her drawer.
Oh my God.
And so we would have friends come over, and there was a lock on our door, and they would knock on the door, and we'd open the door with just a chain. We go, "Who's there?" with the eye. So it's like really, really twisted comedy, but and dark comedy.
Oh my God.
But my mom loved it.
Yeah. So did your mom
You
love...
said, tell you one story.
I did ask. Did your mom love the idea of you wanting to move to LA?
No, she was so sad. She cried. She understood, though, you know, I knew that I had the job of being a musical director to fall back on in Chicago. So I was young enough and self-aware enough. That's another thing I would teach high school kids, is how to become self-aware about yourself and your place in your family, in the world, and what that means, and how to build confidence from that. I don't know. I think my mom gave me all the confidence in the world. She just showered me with love. But what was the question?
We were talking about you leaving.
Oh, yes, leaving. So I was like, Mom, I think I got to go try this. I've been booking commercials in Chicago and stuff like that. I go, it's now or never, and if it doesn't work, I will. So we did the whole goodbye, crying, and, you know, I just recently... And she watched me out the window as I drove away. I'm like, what was I thinking? I never even visited Los Angeles. I'd never been there. And I just like, bye, and like, what? And what she must have been thinking, but she was great. She was great, supportive in anything I did.
Will and Grace, how did that come about?
I was in a movie called Billy's Hollywood Screen Kiss in 1998. I had been living in Los Angeles for like a year and a half. And I got this movie. My agent was literally like, yeah, you got that movie, you want to do it? It's like, I'm not even kidding, it was like $35 a day or something. And I was like, yeah, what else am I doing? You know, I'm waiting tables, it sucks. And so I had this movie, Billy's Hollywood Screen Kiss. It was being screened at Sundance, and sitting behind me at the premiere screening was a casting director at NBC, and he said, oh my gosh, would you come in and read for the part of Will and Will and Grace? And I said, great, I would love to see a script. He said, I'll send it to you. And I didn't have money to change my flight to go home for that audition. Plus, I was enjoying Sundance, and I was like, let me deal with that after I deal with this. And so, but honored and flattered and all that. And so I got back, and they had cast the amazing Eric McCormick as well, and they said, would you come in and read for the other guy? And so I said, sure, and that's it. Yeah.
That's not it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just the beginning.
Yeah, right.
So you were cast as Jack, and is Jack anything
Gay.
like you? Are you anything like Jack? No, I know.
I know, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I would stop, James Burrows, who directed every episode, he's brilliant. His dad was Abe Burrows, who wrote Guys and Dolls and
I love Goodman.
How to Succeed, and amazing. But Jimmy would always say, I would, even like until last year, I'd be like, or 2 months ago, I'd be like, Jimmy, I have a question. He's like, yeah, is my character supposed to be gay? He's like, I think so. Anyway.
Which, by the way, you do brilliantly.
Thanks. Yeah, what was the question?
Jack.
Jack, what about him?
Are you like Jack?
Oh,
Is Jack
I think,
like you?
any actor has to bring some sense of themselves to a role, or else it won't be believable. So I think there are obviously a lot of characteristics about Jack that are myself, but so many more that aren't. I'm extremely type A, organized, I have a business mind, I'm driven, ambitious, and all those things. And I don't know that
Jack is
is.
none of those things. None of those things.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I really loved about the series, because I watched it religiously, I have not watched the reboot as much. I only saw one episode, but I loved it so much because of the joy that you brought to each and every night.
Thanks.
It was just something to behold. And the fact that for the first time ever, we are seeing a gay man owning his gayness.
Right.
And so I found something that...
Except for, never mind. I was making a political joke, but that's okay.
Well, I'm going into politics right now,
Okay.
kind of, because it was then Vice President Joe Biden who credits Will and Grace as having done more to shift public opinion than anything else.
Isn't that, I was in my pajamas, I was like, fell on my chair. I was like, are you kidding me? That was amazing. Yeah, something about educating America more than anything in the world. And, you take a job as an actor, you're thinking about getting the job and doing a good job at that part. The byproduct of Will and Grace was nothing I could have ever imagined. It was bigger than all of us. That, just an incredible thing to celebrate and be a part of. I did not expect that. I just got a pilot, and I was like, yay, I got a job on a show. But it really changed hearts and minds.
Well, you were so young at the time, so I wondered whether you ever felt the burden of having to bring that.
Yeah, I did not.
You
I did
didn't?
not because I didn't allow myself to, because I knew I was too young, and I don't have the DNA or the biology to be a spokesperson for any group of people. That's not my comfort zone. My husband Scotty is here today, and my comfort zone is making stupid, dumb Facebook videos with him.
Oh my God, and those are brilliant, by the way.
Thanks. That's why I brought it up so you would say that. And
I've watched them, and I'm going to prove it soon. So go ahead. You finish your thought.
So I never allowed myself to accept the responsibility of speaking for the gay community because I knew I wouldn't do a great job. I knew there was better people suited to speak on that behalf. I am a little better now that I'm a little older and I can speak freely about it, but I had to do soul searching and all of that, and we would get death threats on the show and all this stuff, and I was too young. I was like, I don't want to talk about it because I was scared. I was scared, and I didn't know that I should have pushed aside my own fears to rise above the needs of a community that needed my help at the time.
Wow, that's really honest of you to say that.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. And had I known then what I know now, I
Right.
would have completely done it differently.
And so along that line, I mean, one of the reasons, again, that I loved it was because I had friends. I'm Catholic also. And
I'm sorry.
So, I know. So, that whole being gay and accepting gays into the Catholic Church and the community and all of that, at that time, it's just not something you did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really loved that you celebrated it from my friends.
Oh, that's
I
nice.
felt like it gave them a role model to look at and say, it's okay to be who I am.
For sure.
In a really big way.
Yeah.
So,
It's okay for anybody to be who
they
they
are.
are. I love that. That's what another message of the show was. And, over time, gay guys would be like, are you more of a Will or a Jack? Because there's a whole spectrum of gay people, like there's a whole spectrum of straight people, like there's a whole spectrum of Black, of Asian, of Latin, of Caucasian, of everybody, you know. So anyway.
So back in your childhood, then, were you openly gay back when you were in
I was
high school?
when I came out when I was 18 to my family, and then completely out and proud, and then I was on national television on a television program, and then all this stuff behind the scenes was happening, and it was too much pressure. So sure, I was out to everybody, but not the press.
Okay.
Because I just didn't. I mean, that's a whole other 9-hour conversation. I just didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, no, I get it. But I'm thrilled
Well,
with what
thank
you
you.
did, so thank you.
Thank you, Zoraida.
No, it would be Zoraida.
Zoraida.
No Z, pronounce it like an S, Zoraida.
Zoraida.
There you go, perfect.
Zoraida. Say the last name.
Sambolin.
That is correct.
So you said you're a businessman, and then you mentioned your
Scotty.
wonderful husband,
Yeah.
Scott. Scotty, you call him?
Everybody call him
Scotty.
Scotty.
Could you wave at everybody so that they know you?
Yeah, there he is.
Okay. So,
That's enough.
if you have some time today, I'm going to ask you to Google Sean Hayes plum.
Oh.
Just do that for me, please, today, and maybe ballet if you're at it, or tutus or something. So, you have a book that you wrote that I absolutely fell in love with. Well,
Thanks.
you collaborated, the two of you together. And then you have this little video where you introduced.
Right. I forgot about
did
that.
you? How could you forget? It was everything.
Because we're wearing tutus, probably.
Oh my gosh. So tell us about the book.
So Scotty is an incredible composer. He wrote the music for Will and Grace. We produced The History of Comedy on CNN that he wrote the music for.
Yes.
He's writing music for this animated series on Netflix that we're doing called Q-Force, which is like gay James Bond. And then the movie that just came out, Lazy Susan, and he does a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, that's brilliant, Scotty. So I was doing An Act of God, the play, on Broadway. This is 2 years ago. And during the day, as you know, there's nothing to do, right, until you get ready for the show. So I was like, well, there's 10 hours to kill, so let's write a book. So he's like, great. So we came up with this idea to write an origin story of the Sugar Plum Fairy from the Nutcracker, which as a kid, my dad left when I was 5. As a kid, to kill the time and the space, I would play the Nutcracker over and over and over again. I memorized every note of every single instrument in every song. I'm still obsessed with it. But it's like Alice in Wonderland. It's like this trippy acid, like what? There's a Nutcracker and a Mouse King, and they fight like it's crazy. And so I was like, and then the Sugar Plum Fairy comes out, and she's the star of the whole thing, and you know the dun 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 bum 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 dun 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 Christmas song, one of the most famous things. So we're like, where did she come from? Why don't we create origin stories for all the people? Because they just pop in and pop out. So we created Plum as a little girl, and the story is about how the Sugar Plum Fairy got her wings. And then we made a video to promote it, which is so silly.
The video to promote it is everything. It is, they're in tutus, and they're teaching a ballet class. So how is it to work with your husband? Because I would hate that.
Yes, well, yeah. We would argue, of course, and then when he just, when he fessed up that I was right, it would be, everything was, no.
I wish I had you mic'd up, because you need a voice right now.
We, of course, working with anybody, your husband or a friend or a coworker, whatever, you're always going to have creative bumps, but we have respect enough to take a time out, think about it, and then come back and compromise, because that's what it's about. And I always say, when you find our relationship or looking for one, you should think of it as falling in respect with somebody, not in love with somebody. Because when you fall in respect with somebody, the love follows. And I think that's what we have.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Fall in respect.
Yeah.
As
long as he keeps his mouth shut.
So who came up with the concept of Lazy Susan?
Lazy Susan was when I was 21 living in Chicago, I got a call from my agent saying, you have an audition to replace the white guy on In Living Color, and who was Jim Carrey. And so I was like, okay, it's 21. She goes, so tomorrow you got to come with a bunch of characters. I was like, okay. I did some sketch, but I didn't have like these So I walked in and did one of the characters I did was Susan, and I called her Lazy Susan. And so a friend of mine challenged me, 4 years ago, to do a movie because she loved that character. And so I wrote this movie called Lazy Susan. It stars me, Allison Janney, Margot Martindale, Matthew Broderick, Jim Rash. It's a great cast. And I play Susan.
Yeah.
And it's really fun and funny and kind of heartbreaking at times. A story about this girl who dreamed of having it all and doing nothing to get it.
It's true. I mean, I was watching and thinking, wow. I mean,
Yeah.
I know some people like that.
I know a lot of people like that. And it doesn't have to be female either. Yeah.
So of all the hats that you wear many, many hats, which is your favorite?
Oh, gosh. When I have a really great idea, I love to write. But I think it'll always come back to acting. Yeah, I love the challenge of creating new characters and the challenge of the process of overcoming a fear to get into the skin of somebody you feel totally uncomfortable being in, but acting like you're comfortable in it. So that was Lazy Susan too. Like, it's not my lifelong dream to play a woman.
No.
And as a matter of fact, I didn't want to do it. But the challenge of doing that, putting the prosthetics on and like everything, it didn't feel good, which is why I liked it. And so, but once I got it on and I got into the character, it's like a mountain you climb and you reach the top, and I'm very goal oriented, so I can check that off my list. I did it.
Bring us back to the Goodman, because there was a mom here, actually I think it was a grandmother, who said to me that her grandson is really interested in theater. I think 15 years old, if I remember correctly.
I love that,
and she wanted some advice.
Oh my gosh.
I know, on the spot.
Well, for the 15-year-old, not the grandmother.
No, not for the grandmother.
Well, I mean, it's a tough business, but I always say, if you love what you do, you've already won. When I moved to California, I was doing sketch comedy, making literally $5 a show and laughing my butt off. And I didn't care about, where my next meal was coming. I mean, I did, but I didn't, because I was doing what I loved to do. So I think nothing in the world matters if you can wake up happy every day, and most of that has to do with what you're contributing to society and to yourself. And if theater's the thing, or this business is the thing, nothing else matters.
Today you saw a little bit about the Goodman and the programs that we're doing.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just learning. I'm learning about all of it. And Willa, it's unbelievable.
Isn't she awesome?
Unbelievable what you're doing. Yeah. And very inspiring. And it makes me want to get involved, which is the point of it, I hope.
Yes.
Right? It's to videos like that and stories like that and programs like that should make you get off your butt and want to support those programs, and especially at the Goodman. I mean, who knew, like you said, who knew that, you think Goodman, you just think, oh great, I'm just going to see an amazing show. But all of these things, I want to help get the word out because I think it's so important. And it only drives more sales. Yeah.
Well, on that note,
Yeah.
I'm going to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from
Thank
the
you.
bottom of our hearts. We are so grateful you're
Thank
here.
you. Thank you.